Hello and welcome. My name is Savannah. I'm so happy to have you join me here on my channel. This channel is about self exploration and spirituality and exploring all the concepts that unite us as human beings. I'm so glad that you're here with me today. This video today is about debt, and I wanted to approach this conversation about debt in a very compassionate and gentle way because I think, unfortunately, there's so much conversation around debt that is shame inducing, and there's not enough conversation in the spiritual community about debt's role in abundance and manifestation. Just getting started, I feel like there is so many misconceptions about manifestation and money. There is so much language that talks about money and abundance as something just to get into the frequency of. And this is such an abstract concept that I don't really think helps anyone. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think there's a lot of importance in meditation, and I do believe that manifestation is about exploring the energy in our mindset that we reside in. Because if we don't truly believe that we're worth abundance, it will be hard to accept it when it comes our way. However, I feel like there is a deep imbalance in these conversations because to truly achieve wealth and to truly manifest abundance, it's not just something that we sit around and wait to happen. When it comes down to wealth and abundance, sure, we can have circumstances that bring us maybe a cascading of money here and there. But I feel like there's almost this unhealthy feminization of wealth and abundance as something that, again, is imbalanced, and there's not enough conversation around the action steps that need to take place to truly be a good steward of wealth, a good steward of your money, and creating money habits that truly allow you to manifest the wealth that you're looking to manifest because you built the structure and the system in your life to do so. Because if you're someone who, like me, is still looking to pay off debts, whether it's student loans or car payment or credit cards, whatever it is, these things that we as Americans very easily fall into or have no choice but to, it can feel like such a burden or such a hamster wheel when it comes down to truly freeing ourselves of this debt, especially if we have maybe made choices in our life that have attributed to this accumulation of debt. So, like, for example, if like credit cards, if that's something that you're struggling to pay off, and maybe haven't set solid structures in place to pay off your cards ahead of time or to not accumulate big balances that are hard to manage or whatever the case may be, or even just charging enough for your services or advocating for your work as an employee to have sustainable income enough to pay for the expenses in your life. I see that as well. Then debt is something that is, it can feel like this monster. It can feel like this thing that we really struggle to get ahead of and conquer. And so I think with how much our society prides itself on hustle culture and on more is more and very lavish living and consumerism, it's very easy to fall into that trap of feeling like you need to have physical things or you need to have material wealth that you can show people. And a lot of times we bypass through credit cards or through taking out loans or whatever the case may be. Sometimes wealth is something that we are taught to be performative about. And that can be something that is one of those bad habits that keeps us trapped in the debt cycle of feeling like we have to obtain this persona of someone who is wealthy in order to be liked, in order to appear successful, or even just to prove to others our worth. We tie too much of our own self worth to our material possessions and this life that we maybe showcase on social media, whether that's through vacations or designer clothing or cars or whatever it is that maybe you're spending money on to uphold the appearance of wealth. And this is something that it's not necessarily a bad thing to enjoy nice things and to enjoy luxury goods. Trust me, I love it too. But if it's something that is performative, then it's hollow. It's something that ultimately is reinforcing this belief within yourself that you're not enough, that you're not good enough without these things. And therefore, it continues this harsh cycle of having to spend maybe more than you have in order to withstand and uphold that persona that you're trying to maintain. And that mask is one that we maybe put on out of fear of rejection, out of maybe fear of being seen as someone who isn't wealthy, and the importance that maybe we attach to wealth and our identity and our self worth and even self esteem. So I say all this because I just want to normalize some of the patterns that people maybe, especially in their early 20s, which I think is when a lot of people accumulate debt because they're trying to figure out life. I know for my generation, that's certainly true. It's very easy to fall into these patterns and then not really know what to do once you're stuck in a place where maybe you can't pay off that debt, or it's not as easy to pay it off. And this is something that me personally, I'm still working through right now. I really had to square up with some of my habits that were not helpful, or ways that I was just leaking energy or leaking money in my business or in my self worth that wasn't truly serving me. I see with practitioners this nervousness in charging maybe a higher rate or charging at all for their services because they don't want to come across as greedy, and they don't want to come across as like someone who's inaccessible. But ultimately, our energy is a resource, our time, our emotion, our attention. And I know for myself as a practitioner, not only do I have lots of skills and training and education, but I put my heart and soul into what I do. So needing to really realize how much I really pour into my sessions deserves to be met with the equivalent value. And so that's all it is. It's just a game of balance. And so when it comes down to debt and sometimes these unhealthy patterns that we can have with debt, it's not just that we maybe spend too much than we make, but sometimes it's that we don't ask for enough to sustain what we're doing. And so that's something that I encourage you to think about is like where in your life are you maybe leaking resources, whether that's like subscriptions that you don't need. I know I've canceled a handful of those, or if it's like an area where you're giving your resources away to someone who's maybe not returning the equivalent value back to you, whether that's money or if it's like a trade service, if you're giving your service and maybe getting a facial from someone or whatever. I think that everyone deserves to have balance and have the equivalent be met in their life, whether again that's money or something else of value that you need. This is something that I think allows us to not just work through debt, but overall just become a good, healthy steward of money. And I think being a steward of money is a spiritual concept. It does take discipline in order to build healthy financial boundaries in our lives, whether that is like setting up actual accounts, like whether it's savings or high yield savings or checking account, and actually setting up systems that allow the sustainability to be there and containers or buckets to be there for our wealth, or if it's just about being a healthy steward of our money and being very conscious about where it's going and not falling into that habit of serotonin spending, is what I call it. So if we're spending money on things that we really don't need and falling into those consumer ad- addictions, really, and like capitalist addictions of buying this thing to try to fix ourselves, if we maybe feel like there's something um, like lacking within us or about us, sometimes we look to buy something to try to fix that. I know the beauty industry, as much as I love makeup and the beauty industry, I'm also a big advocate of inner beauty is the real source of beauty. That like I know my skin looks the best when I am taking care of my mental health and I'm taking that time to do my skincare. I don't use any fancy products. All my products come from the drugstore or Kroger. So, but my skin is the healthiest it's ever been in my life, and I think that is really truly coming down to my self-awareness and taking care of myself mentally and emotionally, and so I'm not breaking out as much as I used to or at all, and my skin is healing because I'm giving it this attention from the place of what do I need rather than what do I need to fix. Like if I do have a breakout or something or my skin is dry or whatever the ailment is, It's not like something that I see as wrong with me and something that I need to, like I said, fix and go out and buy another gadget or another potion to fix. It's more so about tuning into myself physically, my diet, my exercise, my stress relief, and really allowing myself to nourish internally. And it's wild how that's reflected in the external. And my skin will clear up overnight when I give myself a really good self care, emotional cleansing session, whether that's through breath work or through womb work or maybe breast massage or something of that sort. When I'm pouring that energy back into myself and nourishing my inner world, it really has the best benefit more than any skincare item that I found so far. So, and I think that that's something that the capitalist culture really pushes on us all, not just women, men too, and everyone in between. But I know for women, especially, like we are constantly bombarded with messages of anti aging or this is the next latest and greatest thing. And I first of all don't like that message of anti-aging. I think it's a gift to age, and I don't think we should resist aging. I think we can take care of ourselves, like wear your SPF to keep your skin as healthy as possible, but wrinkles and smile lines and crow's feet and all those things that people try to run away from, they're evidence of life, and I think that's a really beautiful thing. And if we're trying to spend money on constantly trying to quote like fix ourselves or stop the natural process of nature, then we're ultimately pouring money into something that is coming again from that place of not feeling like we are enough and not feeling like we're pretty enough or good enough or young enough or attractive enough or whatever it is, that belief. And when we have those unhealed beliefs within us, those self worth beliefs, then it does lead to those unhealthy patterns of how we manage our money and where we put that money. If it's in something, again, to try to like fix how we look. I know this is something that's really, really popular right now with the GLP-1 culture. Instead of people taking that time to really invest in their diet and invest in maybe help from a nutritionist or buy organic instead of fast food or just take time to cook things that are nutritious. That's something that I think is very, very sad happening in our culture of just another pill, another shot, whatever it is, another chemical that's going in our body to try to fix something that we don't like about ourselves. And I know in some circumstances it is a helpful route and option. I'm not shutting it down completely, but I think I see way too much, whether it's with the GLP-1s or even in plant medicine and psychedelic medicine, which I'm trained in. I see people sometimes approach that solution the very same way of, I don't want to be depressed anymore. Let me do a session. Let me do a ketamine treatment. And it just doesn't work like that. We need to really take that time to ask ourselves what we need, what is needing to be nourished and loved on within ourselves, and how can we confront the hard things. And I think that's something too that with debt, it's sometimes scary. It's sometimes way, quote, easier to avoid it or to try to ignore it and pretend it's not there. And that's ultimately not going to be serving us. That's not being a good steward of money. That's not truly a spiritual practice, the avoidance, because true spirituality, if you think about the yin and the yang, it's balance, embracing the light and also embracing the dark. So if we have something that we're working on, or if there's shadows around our money situation, such as debt or maybe self worth, like a negative self worth belief or deservability or whatever it is, that's going to show up in our spiritual practice. And if we're falling into this brainwashing, which I see all the time in the manifestation narrative of just be delusional, just get into the money vibration, just be in that energy and it will come to you. That I think it's just half of the equation. I do believe in the fact of being in that mindset and that vibration of everything's going to be okay. I think that allows you to be grounded and not move from survival based behaviors and fear based behaviors. But if you're not actually taking action steps and confronting that shadow and doing the work to tweak and refine your foundation and your habits and make changes in your spending or your structure or your lifestyle or whatever it is to sustain that money balance. And whether it's even out and pay off debt or just handle large amounts of money that come your way or small amounts of money for that matter, shoot, then that's what it is. It's delusion. It's not actually helpful. You're just going to stay stuck in this place of frustration and feeling like you're not thinking the right thoughts or not in the energy enough. And this is something that I think is so important. It's just you have to get into the action. The action is what actually makes change. Yes, the inner world definitely has a huge impact. Like I was talking about with skincare, taking care of stress and emotions does help the outer skin look really good. But there has to be both. If I just work on my emotions but don't wash my face, or don't wear sunscreen, I'm going to burn and I'm going to get breakouts because I'm oily. There needs to be that balance. If we're getting into the money mindset of, yes, I deserve wealth. Yes, I deserve money. Yes, everything's going to be okay. That's great. But if we're avoiding bills or not paying off what we need to pay off and spending willy nilly or spending money on things that aren't helpful or not seeking out resources or education on how to be a better steward of our money, is going to stay unbalanced and we're going to stay stuck and we're just going to keep going in that circle. And so I think this is something that I just wanted to be very honest about when it comes down to the manifestation culture, is that I think it's just very lopsided. And I think we really need to give ourselves more credit on the action steps that we can take. And I was talking recently with one of my clients who is a star seed, as many of us are, and I'm sure you are if you're watching this. And being a star seed, being this kind of new generation of people on this earth that are really meant to change the paradigm in whatever way is unique to you. Hearing about her, knowing her mission as a star seed is to not live in the capitalist cycle and not live in that world of burnout and not live in that world of burning the candle at both ends, but also seeing a lack of clarity on the action steps to design the new way of being. So I think it's great to break out of the capitalist cycle. I've done it myself, being a business owner, not being in the corporate world anymore, not working the 9 to 5. But if I didn't work, nothing would happen in my life. If I didn't channel my energy into my unique cycles as a woman, as a human design manifester, then it wouldn't be going anywhere. If I didn't take the time to sit down and write this book, even on the days I didn't always feel like it, even on the days where it was really hard emotionally and I had to dig deep or take breaks or just nourish myself throughout the process, I didn't have to push through at the expense of my health. I didn't have to push through even when I was on the verge of collapsing from exhaustion. That's breaking that cycle. Whereas maybe in the corporate world, I would numb myself out with like substances just to like get through the day or to burn off steam at the end of the day. That's a very real part of that chapter in my life. And I was just burning the candle at both ends. Wasn't eating enough. I wasn't having a lunch break or a mindful lunch break. I was answering emails and doing work while just shoveling food in my mouth. That's not how I have to live anymore. But I do, as an entrepreneur and as an author, I do need to pour my energy into what I love and what's important to me and what I want to see come to fruition. And that's what I was explaining to my client is, yes, you don't have to work hard in the way maybe your parents have done in their lives and are maybe trying to push on to you of working too many hours that it's not sustainable or it pushes you to an addiction problem or it pushes you to into a depressive episode. It doesn't have to look like that, but it does need to look like something. And that's where you come in as a star seed, as this spiritual person, as someone who is meant to break the mold. You can't just break the mold and leave it at that. You got to redesign the mold to work for you. And so that's something that I think is very important moving forward in healing debt is, yes, you don't have to work 5 jobs that pay you minimum wage. I think it's about understanding your worth, knowing what skills you have, and moving into a career that has a sustainable workflow, sustainable work schedule, job description, whatever the case may be, or starting your own business and being a nice boss to yourself. That's something I've had to learn too, is not beating myself up if I don't do everything on my to do list, but also still holding myself accountable. And if I say I'm going to do something that day, I'm the only one in this room that's going to do it. So, understanding the realities and understanding that it doesn't just manifest out of thin air. We can get clear on our goals, get clear on our energy and what energy we want to work towards. But then we also need to take those action steps. And I think that's something that's really helpful to understand is meditation is 100% a resource to help you get clear on the energy that you want to move into and hold. And that is your guiding light, is staying in that frequency, staying in that lane. So if your end goal is that you want to be peaceful with money and not have to worry about money, and your bills can be on auto pay or whatever the case may be, thinking about the emotion that is associated with that, like how good that would feel, how satisfying, how relieving it will be to be in that place. That's your anchor. And then making the choices that align with that feeling. So setting up the auto pay, making sure you have enough money coming in to sustain those different scheduled payments, setting up the system to support your money goals and not spending money too much or at improper times or impulsively or on things that you don't need, and then stressing about that auto pay bill that's coming around the corner. So I wanted to share with you too a poem from my new book, because I think something that is misunderstood way, way, way too often is the concept of discipline. And I think discipline is too commonly associated with punishment. Like when there's a disciplinary action, it's very much like a punishment. But discipline in and of itself is, again, that balance, that healthy masculine that we need to step into sometimes in order for the feminine to thrive. It's creating the structure, creating the container in order for us to be in that flow state. It's about that balance. And discipline is one of those components of healthy masculine energy that we all embody, no matter your gender. Is that structure. It is that commitment, that follow through that builds trust, not just with other people, but with ourselves. And so, discipline is this concept of self love, of devotion, is really important to understand and to practice. That, yeah, sometimes maybe you don't always feel like making your bed in the morning, but continuing to follow through on that promise that you make yourself, it builds self trust and it builds confidence and it builds healthy habits, which you can then therefore transfer to any goal that you have. So if you need more discipline with money in order to really achieve debt payoff and not have yourself fall into unhealthy patterns financially that lead to more debt, discipline is a really big part of that. And it's an act of self love, because you're telling yourself, my peace, my happiness is worth more than these material things, is worth more than this messaging from society of I need this or this or this to be happy. Get really honest with yourself about what you truly want, what you truly need, and that you can have it all. And you can do so in a way and proceed into your dream life in a way that is sustainable and responsible and genuine, because it's not coming from a place of performance or coming from a place of external validation, but it's coming from that rooted place of self worth, knowing that you deserve to have financial security and stability, and you don't need to be burdened with debt. And you certainly don't need to perform wealth for anyone for approval or validation. Those things are all very hollow and they don't ultimately contribute to your inner peace and your happiness. Discipline truly is an act of self love, because when we create that healthy foundation and container for ourselves financially, spiritually, emotionally, Everything allows us to thrive from that point forward. It's like a flower pot that holds the rich soil and allows a beautiful plant or fruit or vegetable to grow from it. The same thing comes down to discipline. We got to water that plant, got to nourish the soil and tend to it, pick out the weeds, and it will truly thrive. Here is my poem about discipline from my new book, Alchemy and Passion, called Discipline. And this is just truly my celebration of learning how to embrace this concept rather than resist it or avoid it or just interpret it as punishment. Discipline. Discipline is not punishment. No one is coming to correct you. It is the quiet act of showing up again and again when no one is watching. Not force, not control, a choosing, a returning. Even rivers need banks, something steady to hold their movement so they don't spill into nothing. Discipline is that, a shape your life can move through, way your energy stays yours. So that closing line of a way your energy stays yours. I mean, just as I was chatting about with where your energy is leaking, where your money is leaking. It could be leaking towards things that aren't truly benefiting your soul, that are feeding into that old, outdated narrative of I need XYZ to be good enough. That worth comes from within. No material thing, no person's approval will ever truly nourish you the way that connecting with your soul, connecting with spirit will nourish you and sustain you. And when you can truly tap into that innate birthright of your worth and operate from that place, you'll find that you naturally lose interest in those things that are constantly trying to get your attention. Buy me, buy me, buy me. You'll start to wake up and see the games and the manipulation and all these different types of things that are just trying to take and take and take from you. When you're very selective and protective of your energy, that's another form of discipline. And so, for anyone who is maybe needing to heal debt and perhaps is struggling with that process, or maybe even what it means about their self worth. Because again, money and status, they oftentimes go hand in hand with people's perception. And so, if you're someone who's struggling with debt, it can oftentimes influence how you see yourself and maybe see yourself as less than, which is not true. Just because you have debt does not make you any less worthy of abundance or happiness or joy or respect. Debt is just merely something to look at and observe, have compassion for, and then just make a plan. Just redesign your structure and it will resolve itself. I promise you. It's just about staying with yourself, staying with your true needs, and honoring, again, where the balance is needed. So, this is another poem that I wrote because this is my own debt recovery journey as my Saturn return has handed to me so generously. So this poem is called Deciding to Stay / Saturn return. Inside the pressure cooker, debt rising, confidence thinning to steam, an imposter in my own life, climbing mountains no one taught me how to scale. Survival made the choices. I called it ambition. I called it a future. I built a life to display for people I do not love, yet still perform for. A loop I swore I'd broken. The system hums, tenderizing us into something consumable. Shame floods the mouth, too bitter to swallow. The balance blinks back at me. $14,782.36 owed. This pressure is not a game. It is a death of habits mistaken for self. Compost now, beliefs I never chose. A maze in the dark. Answers flicker. Blame multiplies. Fear at my shoulder or guiding me. I hate this feeling. I hate the voice that says I am this. Hopelessness wears the mask of truth. It lies. There is support now. There is a way through. Still, I resist the light, like relief cannot be trusted. I want more, but wanting requires open hands, and mine are clenched. If I step off the rug myself, no one can pull it from under me. Logic or wound? This part of me is loud, relentless. How do I hold her without turning away? I cannot think my way out. I must feel. I must choose again to stay. So, this poem was about this moment of frustration, of hopelessness, of anxiety, of really facing up with the poor decisions I've made. And not even poor decisions, because honestly, a lot of my credit card debt is survival based. It was getting out of an unhealthy relationship and not having the income at that moment to provide for myself, to move, to pay my rent, to buy groceries. It wasn't me buying designer bags. I only have one designer bag and my man bought that for me. So it's it's something again that can happen to anyone, and it doesn't mean that you're bad or irresponsible. And you also just can't think your way out of it. You can't manifest your way out of it in that informal sense of just meditating and money's going to rain down on you. It's about meditating, getting into that mindset of I am worth more than this feeling. I deserve balance and equality in my life and peace. And I'm okay and I'm strong and I can make those changes in my life to rebuild my foundation. And asking for help. That's something I really had to learn how to do. And I express in that poem of sometimes it's hard to ask for help. It's vulnerable. And that's something I'm very, very grateful for with my fiance, being able to learn how to ask for help for someone or from someone that's not going to be thrown back in my face or used against me or gossiped about. And maybe those old patterns that made finances something that I couldn't trust other people with or wasn't taught how to manage in a healthy way. It's up to you to seek out those resources to start to build a new way of thinking and a new way of understanding money and how it works. And you can do it. I believe in you and you can take care of yourself in the process, just as I've been doing. Something that, again, you don't have to beat yourself up about. You can hold yourself and be compassionate and practice that discipline to make those changes and operate from that place of self love of really deserve to have a healthy foundation. And I'm willing to do what it takes to build that, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's uncertain. And you'll be surprised at how many resources come your way. And resources could be monetary, but also just knowledge and understanding and empowering you to know more and to make those decisions again from that place of thriving and not survival. And so that's something, again, that it takes trust, it takes a nervous system regulation. I'm sure you've heard that before of you got to regulate your nervous system in order to receive money, which is true. And also, that's not the end all be all. It's not all just about meditation and breath work and those like sedentary practices, but it's about doing and doing the hard things and doing something new and doing the things that maybe are uncomfortable, but knowing that you can hold yourself through that and that it's worth it to build that healthy, strong foundation for yourself and to truly be the good steward of money that you are. And more will come your way as you show that you're capable of managing it and managing the small amounts and not just wishing for a big rainfall like the lottery to come and solve all your problems, but to truly have those healthy habits and healthy beliefs that guide your behaviors and guide your spending patterns. it really does start with you and that inner world. And then leading from that inner world of wholeness and wellness and balance to make those decisions and to take those action steps to execute your dreams and to truly manifest and bring into reality, into the physical and material world, all that you desire. So you are worth it. You can do it. I believe in you. If you need more inspiration or want to revisit these poems or any of my other poems, you can get my book, Alchemy and Passion. I'll have the link in the description. And I'm so glad we could have this conversation today. Again, I'm Savannah. Please subscribe if you'd like to hear more from me in the future. Would love to be YouTube friends. Either way, I appreciate you coming and chatting with me today. Please let me know what you thought in the comments. Would love to hear what your journey is. And I hope that my words were nourishing for you. Thank you for giving me your time and your attention. Until next time, bye for now.